Hello and welcome. In this video we're going to look at how to create glitchy granular drums in the style of Aphex Twin, Boards of Canada and others that can be used in the likes of Botanica or any kind of music where you want that cool, interesting, glitchy sound to your drums. So let's get into it. Psst! Hey you! Have you heard about Patreon? Well, I have a Patreon, and behold, there are many goodies in there. I post Patreon exclusive tutorials and also have a shop where you can get useful tools to use in your music, such as these drum shaper tools for Ableton Live. Make your drums slap with these great racks. There's lots of sample packs and other tools available as well. So if you want to support the work I do, then that is one of the best ways to support me. Anyway, back to it. Here are the source files that we're going to use to create these glitchy drums. As you can hear, pretty simple, some hi-hats, some ride cymbals, and a full drum loop. Now for the first stage we're going to be using granular synthesis. I would recommend staying away from full drum files that have got lots going on in them. Stick with hi-hats and rides for this first stage, but again we don't want overly complex drums. So anything that's similar to this. It doesn't have to be super complex, they don't even have to be good sounding drum files because we're going to really edit them and change how they sound. So I've dragged the hi-hat loop into Granulator 3 in Ableton Live. You can use your own Granulator synthesizer for this. Specifically, I have access to Granulator 3. As we can hear when we play back on C3, and we can scan the position as well. And we can also change the grain size. And this is where the interesting granular craziness gets introduced. And what I have here is two LFOs. And I'm going to attach them, the first one, to the position. So it's always scanning through the position into different places randomly using almost like a sample and hold waveform. And the second LFO we're going to apply to the grain size as well. And if we play it back, as you can hear, we're getting into some really crazy sounds. Now when it comes to the grain size, the more squeaky the sounds, if we instead of having the range from 0% to 100%, we can drag this down further. So if you want to have that kind of sound, that's how you would achieve that. Or less of that, we'll drag the lower range up. So it never gets fast enough for it to start getting into that squeaky digital territory. So the next thing I have here is I've just drawn in a C3 note that lasts for 8 bars. And I've recorded this out onto a new channel. Now every time I do this it will always sound different because of that random playback with the LFOs on the granulator. But here we go. Now at the moment that sounds very messy and unusable. But this is where things start to get really fun. So if you go into the waveform editor, the first thing that I want to do is I'm going to pitch this up 2 octaves to see what it sounds like. Now we're starting to get into that glitchy territory. That's really, really cool. But I want to take this further so it's in time to a beat. If I turn the click on and play this back, you can hear it doesn't really have a rhyme or reason to it rhythmically. It just still sounds very messy. But in Ableton Live in Beats mode, if we change from transients to a 16th note and we change the playback to 1 shot, now this will start to get very rhythmical, which is really cool and what we're looking for, because in this 1-shot mode at the 16th, it's going to play back at 16th notes. And as we shorten this down, it's going to make the sample playback shorter and shorter and shorter. And if we turn the click off so we can hear it more. As you can hear, we're now in that sort of glitchy, almost micro drums territory, which is a lot of fun. Now if you don't have access to Ableton Live and this way of working, you can use something like an LFO tool where you can change the playback speed and attach it to a level control. So for example, I've got a shaper attached to a utility that's controlling the level. And if I play this back, it's currently at a 1/4 note. There we go, we can change it to a 16th, and I can change the shape of this as well. Now whatever DAW that you're using, you should have access to this kind of thing, whether it's FL, Bitwig, Ableton, Logic. Or even going further, you can use automation and draw in these kind of shapes. So now we're going to further refine the sound. I have an EQ here, just making sure that there's absolutely no low end in the sound whatsoever. I then have a frequency shifter as well. That's further shifting the pitch up, first by 794 Hz and then 500 Hz on top of that. Now I am noticing that I don't have much transient impact at the moment. So with the drum bus, I've just reintroduced some transients with the transient shaper here. We have a final EQ8, just to further refine the sound. Did a little bit of a notch in the high end because it was getting a little bit too obnoxiously bright. And then at the end, the glue compressor, just to make sure it's catching any peaks that go over 0. Now it's as simple as that when it comes to creating this kind of thing. Like I say, using hi-hats or rides, anything that has top-end information in it that you can get into this kind of territory with. Here's a fully embellished example of 2 different ones that I've done. And then we have a ride cymbal one here as well. Which I've decided to shorten that scan down so it gets into the really squeaky glitchy territory as I showed in the granulator. Now at the beginning of the video I showed the main drum loop that I was going to use, which was this. The reason why it sounds louder is I've put a little bit of compression on the bus that this is going through. But instead of throwing this through the granulator, I just want to sort of keep the transients and make these drum sounds really short and higher pitched. So first thing I did, I brought these up 2 octaves, preserved the transients in beats mode, changed it to 1 shot, and then again bringing this down. Now we have those really fast transient drums that can work with the glitchy tops that we had. And if we play those 3 back together, we really are in that glitchy territory now. Now just to embellish the main beats, I found that the kick and the snare were lacking a little bit. So I isolated the kick from that main drum loop, kept it at its normal pitch, and again using the transients 1 shot, bringing this all the way down to 0. This is what we have for the kick. And then for the snare, brought the pitch down to 12 just to get a little bit more of the fundamental. And again, transients mode 1 shot, bringing it all the way down to 0. So now we've got a super fast snare. Now this has a little click at the end, which I would normally get rid of, but in this case, with it being glitchy drums, it accentuates the sound that I'm looking for. And if we combine everything that we've looked at together, we now have these super cool glitchy drums. And now we can add some musical elements to this as well. And this is what we have. Anyway, I hope you find this tutorial useful. Try these techniques in your own music. And as always, until next time, God bless and goodbye.